Hello, and welcome to another edition of All or Not According to Jack with your host, Jack Toledano. Basically, what do you see around me? Grass, NFL. So, what do you think we're going to talk about tonight? Uh, I have several things I'd like to talk to you about. A lot of really good burning topics that I want to talk about. Uh, First of all, let's talk about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So about a week or so ago, I forget who the Chiefs were playing, but they beat the crap out of them. Um, they showed Taylor Swift sitting in the in one of those luxury booths, rooting on, sitting with Travis Kelce's mother. Travis Kelce, by the way, is the tight end of the Kansas City Chiefs. She's rooting on. Yay, my Travis scored a touchdown. Oh, sickening. So that's been played to death in the media this week. This whole new Taylor Swift Travis Kelce alliance. Uh, you know, the the media they'll just beat something to death. I mean, uh, being a New Yorker, the talk over the summer was the fact that Taylor Swift had a couple concerts at MetLife Stadium where both the Jets and the Giants play, and there were people that spent over $10,000 basically buying tickets to her concert, on the aftermarket. I mean, who in their right mind would spend over $10,000 for a concert? Uh, I've always wanted to see Led Zeppelin, but you know what? I'm not going to spend $15,000 to go see, uh, you know, Led Zeppelin in their 70s. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Uh, I'll go, I'll go buy a CD or a DVD or I'll watch them on YouTube. You know, or I'll go to what is it, the Paramount Theater in Huntington and watch you know, one of their cover bands. And I did see two cover bands play, Led Zeppelin, and they were amazing and probably the closest I'll ever get to seeing them. But I digress. So yeah, so the story has been, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, which I don't give a damn. I don't get the fascination. I had never heard her before, so during the game, I put a few of her songs up on Spotify, and to say I wasn't impressed is an understatement. To me, she's just yet another sellout, another 2023 musical sellout. So go spend your 10, 15 grand you know, if that's, you know, what, what you see fit. Enjoy. So the other topic of conversation, and this is more me being a football purist. I want to talk football. I don't want to talk about Taylor Swift and her infatuation with Travis Kelce. I just want to talk pure football and pure football. So if you're a Jets fan, you know they've been struggling. Um, they've had some rough weeks. They lost last week to the New England Patriots, a team that they've lost the last 15 straight to. They only get to play them two times a season, and I don't know, for the last 7, 8 years, they've lost to them. Last week being, no different. Uh, I mean, the play calls were horrible. They couldn't move the ball. You know, so then after the game or during the week, uh, probably the only really immortal, famous New York Jet over the years, Joe Namath, uh, went to the press and basically said that this kid, Zach Wilson, looked horrible and that, the kid didn't have a clue and that he should be replaced. And, he just has no business being in there. Uh, you know, I, for a guy who won the Jets their only Super Bowl, his word is basically gospel. If you're a fan of Gangrene. And Zach Wilson, to his credit, he said the right thing. He said, I know I need to improve. I know I need to learn and get better. And I talked to my teammates, and we've set a goal. We're out to try, and we're not going to dispute what Joe said, but we need to try and prove Broadway Joe wrong. And you know what? They almost did tonight. So earlier tonight, you had the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Jets covered on NBC. Again, so kudos to Chris Collinsworth for throwing a few compliments Zach Wilson's way. Uh, to the broadcast team, shame on you for constantly cutting to what the hell's her name? Taylor Swift seats and showing Taylor Swift with that blank, stupid expression on her face. Like, I mean, I'll bet she doesn't even know anything about the game of football. She's just there to be seen and for some publicity and to get some more hits on Spotify and get more records sold and yada, yada, yada. Whereas for me, it's all about the game. So, me, hypocrite that I am, I had a good dinner tonight. I fell asleep right before the game. I woke up close to the end of the first quarter, and I see that the score is 17-0 in favor of the Chiefs. I'm like, oh no. But then a funny thing happened. Uh, Jets got a safety on the Chiefs. That's how they got their first 2 points. Basically, Mahomes was backed up in his own end zone, and he was almost sacked. And there was a face mask penalty in the end zone, so they called a safety. That's a safety, by the way, for those of you who don't know football speak. So then it was 17-2. Then they got the ball back again, kicked a field goal, 17-5. Then, funny thing happened. They were, everybody that's been watching the Jets and watching the game plan, they've been sending these all-out blitzes to basically make this poor young guy's life a living hell. But funny thing happened, they figured it out and they started making some plays and making some good passes, and they started to finally move the ball down the field. And for those of you who know Aaron Rodgers, the big story with the Jets earlier in the season was that the Jets signed Aaron Rodgers, and fourth fucking play of the season, he went down with it and he pulled his Achilles, and he's done for the season. I was very happy to see that when they weren't showing Taylor Swift, a couple times they even cut to show Aaron Rodgers in the booth. So, and Aaron Rodgers, it was nice to see him sitting there and applauding his team. And I had said earlier in the week that, you know what, he's still on this team. He needs to try and work with this kid and help him become a better quarterback. You know what? With his experience, and he has a Super Bowl win, and he had some great years in Green Bay. At least make yourself useful and help the kid. And you know what? It looks like he did. The kid executed some really good passes over the left shoulder of their tight end. I don't know his name, but passes that could not be intercepted. Meanwhile, so they marched the ball down, made it 17-12. Then they stalled a few of the Chiefs' drives. Kudos to their defense. The way you have to beat an elite quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, just the way the Giants did with Tom Brady in that first Super Bowl in 2007. Pressure, lots of freaking pressure. You got to send the fucking kitchen sink at him, and they did that. They sacked him a couple times. They pressured him into 2 interceptions. That's how you beat a Patrick Mahomes. You know what? He's a great quarterback, but he's not invincible. He can be beaten. And for a while, it looked like, you know what? They had a plan. So then they kicked the field goal, made it 20-12. Jets drove it down. Uh, Too bad they had to try for a long field goal. It hit the upright as time expired in the half. But now all of a sudden you have a football game. Then they came out, scored a touchdown, uh, got the 2-point conversion, tied the game 20 piece. You know what? They traded a bunch of 3-and-outs between them. Uh, and then the fourth quarter, sorry, Jets fans, it just didn't work for you. They held them to a field goal, but you still had a chance to drive it down the field, but couldn't do it. A couple of stupid penalties. Uh, you know, and I'm going to advance a little forward. So I had this friend of mine from back in the old neighborhood. Uh, we used to play street hockey as kids, and this guy is a Jets fan. And he's deluded himself into thinking that because the Jets just can't put it together, that the NFL is fixed. What do you think? Please send me your comments. Do you think the NFL is fixed? You know, I tried to explain to this guy that um, it's not fixed. I mean, how do you account for the fact that the Jets were driving and they had the ball just over the 50-yard line in Kansas City territory and they fucking fumbled, giving Kansas City back the ball, and basically they never got the ball back. Kansas City just ran the clock out on them. There were a couple of bad penalties. I mean, yeah, there was a 3rd and 20, and they looked like they had Mahomes stopped, but then they called a holding penalty. I mean, come on, you can't make this up. The NFL didn't script it so that he would freaking hold the guy. Unbelievable. And then at the end of the game, the coach Solomon, Coach Clueless there, gets a penalty on the bench, and that basically effectively ended the game. Gave him a first down. All he had to do was kneel down. I tried to explain to this friend of mine that, so some of you know that I am a Giants fan. And yes, the Giants have gone through their rough years as well. I mean, we had the years back in the 70s. You know, you had that famous Miracle in the Meadowlands play where Joe Pisarcik tried to hand the ball off to Larry Zonka. He fumbled, and Philadelphia Eagles safety Herman Edwards, who would later become the Jets head coach, picked up the fumble, ran it in for the touchdown, and the Giants lost that game, which resulted in the Jets offensive coordinator losing his job Giants offensive coordinator losing his job the next day, and rightfully so. Then it resulted in somebody flying a banner over the stadium saying 10, 15 years of terrible football, we've had enough. I mean, it's almost time to fly another banner over the stadium for both of these teams. I'm not giving up on the Giants yet. They have an important game against the Seahawks tomorrow night. I am going down to Miami next week to see the Dolphins face the Giants. I'm going with my good friend Mark Weinstock. I'm saying a prayer. I don't know if they'll win, but who knows? There is a chance that it could be a good game. The Dolphins basically squashed the Broncos last week, 70-20, but then New York's only football team, some may say, the Buffalo Bills squashed the Dolphins today and hopefully softened them up for said New York Giants next week. So fingers crossed. But yeah, I had this really long debate with this friend of mine. again from the old neighborhood, who's convinced that the NFL is WWE light, he calls it. I won't mention his name, but I would love to have him on this show to debate me and discuss this. The invitation's there. We'll see what happens. But you cannot say, the Jets are a franchise that, you know, I watched them from back in the late 70s. You know what? They look they had some promise in the early 80s, but then they screwed it up and screwed it up year after year. And I just stopped watching them for a while. And then I was more focused on the Giants, and they started to do good in the mid 80s, and I became a fan, and I've never looked back. They won 4 Super Bowls for me. We've had some rough years, but you know what? They've also given me a lot of very exciting years. Uh, they're just a fun team. Especially uh, those during the Tom Coughlin years. They finally had some good receivers. They just put it together. They had some good defense. So you can't sit there and tell me that the NFL is fixed. That's garbage. It's just some teams just don't know how to win. They just don't know how to put the right team on the field. They don't know how to execute the right plays. I mean, look what happened to the Jets back. I don't know if it was mid '90s, late '90s. They they had this they they had this reporter on Newsday that used to refer to them as Team Clueless. They hired Rich Kotite as their coach. They So what they do? They went 3-13 one year under Coach Clueless Kotite. Then the following year they won one game, 1-15. So Leon Hess, before he passed away, he knew that a change needed to be made. So he let the coach leave with dignity. So he hired Bill Parcells, a guy that won us 2 Giants, 2 Super Bowls. I knew right away that this guy could turn it around, and he did turn it around. He brought in the right personnel. He, you know, he made them more defense and running game and clock control focused. And what did they do? Finally, after so many years, they won a division, and they made it to the AFC Championship and almost beat the Denver Broncos. Uh, so you can't tell me that it's fixed. With the right combination, they can win just like anybody. Take the Chiefs, for example. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl back in the early 70s, and then you never heard from them again. They were one of those teams like the Detroit Lions that were perpetually close, but they could just never get over that hump. Uh, Chiefs made it to they had home field advantage in the playoffs, for Christ's sake, and lost it at home. I remember one year they lost to the Colts at home. They were the number 1 seed, for Christ's sake. They could just never turn it around. Finally, 4 or 5 years ago, with the right combination, uh, bringing up Patrick Mahomes, they finally did it. They finally got to the postseason. They finally won a Super Bowl. Last year they beat my most hated rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. Kudos for that. So my Giants, they back in 2007, they finished the season with a 10-6 record, went in as a wild card. Nobody ever expected them to get to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. But they managed. So you cannot tell me you can't blame poor calls by the referees. You just can't. You got to be better than the other team. That's all there is to it. I don't get it. This other guy is telling me I'm crazy because I don't see his logic that the NFL is fixed. Please tell me what your opinion is. So my last point that I'm going to make, and I'm going to do a background switch here. Let's get to that background. Sad, sad season. What do these morons do? Last day of the season, they let Buck Schowalter go as manager. I mean, what are you going to do now? You know, you haven't had a good manager on this team in what, 10, 15 years. Uh, I mean, come on. You finally hired somebody old school that, that would employ logic and doesn't, takes the analytics with a grain of salt and makes his own lineup and makes these youngsters earn their way onto the major league roster. Makes them earn their time on the playing field. And you had these people bitching, oh, he's got to go, he's got to go. You know what? It's not his fault that they failed this year. These players didn't live up to their potential. You had two pitchers that you were paying $40+ million. Uh, you know, unfreaking believable. They both failed. And now what do you have? You don't call them the Mets anymore. Call them the mess, or call them the Mutts. They just shame, damn shame. You know what? I may not be going to too many games in the future. I got to see some improvement in this team. I'm not going to be like those Jet fans that just have blind faith that they're just going to turn it around like the Chicago Cubs or Boston Red Sox did after 80, 90 years. I may not live that long, but hey, my guys gave me 4 Super Bowls. Hopefully in the next couple of years, we have a good coach, we have a good quarterback. We just need to fix that O-line. We need to get some good, reliable receivers. Maybe get, what's his name? Saquon Barkley back and healthy. Who knows? Maybe we'll make a serious splash in the playoffs. Not this year, maybe next year. This is Jack Toledano, speaking for all or nada, according to Jack. Have a good one, folks. And hopefully later this week, I have another episode of reviewing the reviewer for you and some other stuff. So hang in there. I may have a special guest for you later this week. So hang in there, and I'll be seeing you soon.